Nearly 60 years have passed since Bob Gimlin stood beside Roger Patterson and filmed what many believe was a real Bigfoot on 16mm camera. Since then, Bob stayed mostly silent. He faced pressure, questions, and even fear. But now, in his final years, he has spoken for the last time. What he just revealed is not a retelling of the famous footage. It is something far more disturbing, a truth he claims he was told never to share. If you want to hear what he finally confessed, make sure to subscribe. The year was 1967. In a remote forest near Bluff Creek, California, two men rode on horseback with a simple goal. Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson wanted to search for signs of a large, unknown creature. Roger carried a rented 16mm camera. Bob rode beside him with calm focus, trained by years of tracking horses and understanding animal behavior. On that October afternoon, something stepped into view from behind the trees. A tall figure covered in dark hair, walking on two legs. What happened next would change both of their lives forever. Roger jumped from his horse, ran forward, and began filming. Bob stayed on horseback, watching in disbelief. The figure turned, looked at them, and continued walking across the creek bed. The entire moment lasted less than 1 minute. The footage spread around the world. Some experts claimed it was proof of an unknown species. Others called it a planned hoax. But the debate never faded because Bob never fully changed his story. He always said the same thing. He saw what was on that film. It was not a man in a suit. It was not staged. It was real. What most people do not know is that Bob was never seeking fame. He did not try to sell the footage. He did not ask for attention. In fact, he avoided interviews for years. He was a quiet man, respected by ranchers and horse trainers. The more pressure he faced, the more silent he became. He attended events only rarely, and when asked about the experience, his answer was simple. "We filmed what we saw," he said. "I still cannot explain it." Even back then, before the world turned the footage into legend, Bob sensed something uneasy about the encounter, as if the creature was not surprised by their presence, as if it expected them. After the footage was released, Bob Gimlin expected curiosity. What he did not expect was the backlash. Reporters came to his home. Strangers phoned late at night. Some demanded answers. Others accused him of lying. It did not matter that Bob never asked for attention. The world wanted explanations, and they wanted them from him. Over time, the pressure began to turn from public interest into personal attack. Bob was warned by local officials not to talk too much about what he saw. He later told close friends that certain people approached him within weeks of the film being shown. They asked him not to discuss details, especially anything that happened before or after the camera was running. They did not threaten him directly, but Bob understood the message. Keep the story simple. Do not add anything that could fuel speculation. He soon realized that speaking publicly always made things worse. If he gave a short answer, people claimed he was hiding something. If he explained further, they claimed he was making it up. Even when he stayed silent, rumors continued to grow. Some people mocked him. Others tried to corner him into changing his story. Over the years, Bob attended a few events, but he rarely gave detailed accounts. He stayed consistent, calm, respectful, and silent. He said many times that he did not fear Bigfoot. He feared misunderstanding. In one interview, he stated, "The film speaks for itself. I do not need to add to it." But privately, Bob hinted that something was not right about the encounter. He told a trusted friend, "There was more to it, but the world was not ready to hear it." That quiet sentence stayed hidden for decades, until recently, when his final conversation was recorded. In the winter of 2025, Bob Gimlin agreed to take part in what was expected to be a simple recorded conversation. He was 93 years old. His health had begun to decline, and he had turned down multiple public appearances in the previous years. But this time, he accepted. Not for publicity, not for money. According to those who were present, Bob said only one reason: "I want to leave the truth behind while I still can." The interview took place at a private ranch location in Northern California. The setting was quiet and familiar. Just him, two small cameras, and a retired documentary filmmaker who had known him for years. During the early part of the discussion, Bob spoke calmly about his life with horses, his years of work in the rodeo world, and his history with Roger Patterson. He described Roger as enthusiastic and determined, often pushing forward with ideas that others might doubt. Still, Bob had never expressed expressed regret about standing beside him that day in 1967. At first, the interview sounded like all the others, clear, factual, brief. But halfway through, something changed. Bob paused, his breathing slowed, and then he spoke words that, according to the film team, none of them were prepared to hear. He said, "That was not the only time we crossed its path." The room stayed silent. The crew waited. Bob continued, "People think it happened once when Roger filmed it, but that is not true. What you know is just the moment the camera was running. What you do not know is what happened before and what came after." One of the filmmakers asked him directly if he had seen the creature more than once. Bob nodded slowly. He did not smile. He did not dramatize. He simply confirmed it. "Yes," he said. "It watched us before, and it followed us later. I stayed quiet because I did not want to bring fear to people." Those present say he looked straight into the lens. His voice remained calm. "It was not curious," he added. "It was aware. It understood what we were doing, and it was not alone." That statement became the turning point of the interview. The crew later revealed they felt a sudden shift in the atmosphere. Bob did not describe panic. He described observation, the sense that they were being studied, the way a person studies another person, not the way a wild animal watches prey. He ended that portion with one final sentence before the camera was turned off for a short break. "I believe it let us see it that day." Bob Gimlin explained during the interview that the well-known footage from Bluff Creek was not their first encounter. He stated that 5 days earlier, he and Roger Patterson had set up camp near the creek in a small clearing surrounded by dense forest. They were preparing for an early morning ride to scout fresh tracks, and the night was calm. No wind, no movement, just distant sounds of running water and the occasional bird. Around 3:15 in the morning, Bob said the horses began to react. They didn't panic, but they turned their heads toward the tree line, ears pointed, bodies tense. Bob and Roger were immediately alert. Bob listened closely and heard what sounded like footsteps, not on 4 legs, on 2, slow and heavy, each step followed by a pause, as if whatever was moving was calculating distance. Bob counted roughly 47 minutes of movement around their camp area. The creature never attacked and never ran. It circled them with steady pacing, staying out of sight, but close enough that they could hear branches shift and stones break. Bob said, "It was not walking like it was lost. It was walking like it was deciding what to do." He and Roger stayed quiet inside their tent, with no light shining out, hoping not to provoke it. The horses remained still but deeply unsettled. At one point, Bob mentioned hearing a soft exhale, like a long, controlled breath from something with large lungs. Then came the most disturbing detail. He described a sound he had never spoken about publicly before, a sequence of deep clicks, followed by a low, drawn-out tone. Not a growl, not a natural animal call, more like the start of speech. He said it lasted only a few seconds, almost like it was testing a way to communicate, according to Bob. After that moment, the footsteps stopped. The silence returned. Nothing else occurred that night. But what stayed with him was not fear. It was the clarity that the creature was aware of them long before they ever saw it in daylight. Bob suggested that the filmed encounter was not a surprise at all. "It knew where we were," he said. "It already understood what we were doing. That is why it walked across the creek." Before moving to the next subject, Bob ended this part of the interview with a final sentence. "It was not startled by us that day. It was acknowledging us." During the interview, Bob Gimlin explained that the famous footage was not the only record they attempted to collect during their time at Bluff Creek. He stated that Roger Patterson also brought along a small portable audio recorder. It was an older battery-powered unit that Roger liked to use when taking notes or recording unique sounds for later study. According to Bob, they turned it on each night after setting camp, hoping to capture anything unusual in the forest. After the encounter 5 days before the filmed event, when they heard the slow circling and strange vocal sounds outside the tent, Roger checked the device the next morning. Bob said Roger looked pale when he replayed part of the tape. The audio captured heavy footsteps, the soft pause between each step, and more disturbingly, the brief clicking pattern followed by a deep, low tone. Bob recalled Roger replaying that portion multiple times. He wanted to believe it was mechanical interference or equipment malfunction, but the clicks were too controlled, the low tone too deliberate. Bob said the sound gave him the feeling of intention, as if the creature was not simply vocalizing, but testing something. perhaps exploring mimicry, perhaps responding. Instead of celebrating the recording, Roger reacted with caution. He asked Bob to say nothing about it, at least not immediately. They agreed to hold the recorder back until they captured visual evidence. They believed that without film, the recording would be dismissed or labeled as fake, so they kept it private. After the now famous footage was captured and public debate erupted, Bob said Roger tried to approach a few people with the recorded audio. Some seemed interested, but within 2 weeks, interest shifted. Bob claimed that shortly after the footage made national news, Roger was contacted by individuals he did not know, men who claimed to represent researchers and media. They met briefly and requested copies of everything related to the encounter. Bob did not know what happened in that meeting, but days later, Roger told him the audio was no longer with him. He said it was being evaluated and that he was advised not to discuss it. Until a review was complete, the recorder was never returned. No official analysis was presented. Bob believed that the audio was more important than the film because it suggested intelligence and possibly intent. He ended this section of the interview with a quiet statement. What we filmed showed the body. What we recorded showed the mind. As the interview continued, Bob Gimlin spoke about the moment everyone knows from 1967. The creature walking along the creek, turning its head toward the camera, then disappearing into the trees. He confirmed once again that he never believed it was staged. But then he leaned forward slightly and revealed something he had never said on record. He said, "What the world saw was not all that was there." According to Bob, only moments before Roger started filming, he caught sight of movement deeper in the tree line on the opposite side of the creek bed. He did not see full details, only a dark shape standing still, partially behind a pine trunk. At first, he thought perhaps it was another creature moving through the woods, but it remained completely silent. He described its posture as upright and still, unlike the walking figure that appeared seconds later. Bob said he wanted to alert Roger, but did not want to panic the horses or draw attention to himself. He believed the creature watching them was observing closely, as though evaluating their actions. When Roger began to film the more visible figure, Bob saw a slight shift from the hidden observer, almost as if it reacted with recognition. He stated quietly, "The one walking past us, the one in the film, that was not the only one present. I believe there was another one behind us, and I believe it stayed there to watch how we would react." He explained that after the recorded figure disappeared into the woods, he remained on horseback, scanning the area. In those final seconds before the encounter ended, he caught a glimpse of what looked like eyes reflecting light. He saw no aggression, no attempt to flee, just observation. He described the eyes as focused, like it was waiting for the right moment to move. Bob never reported this detail publicly because he believed it would be dismissed as imagination. People already doubted the footage. Adding a second figure risked total disbelief. But in this final interview, he said he no longer cared about disbelief. He cared about accuracy. He believed the visible figure was deliberately distracting them, that the hidden figure remained to confirm whether the humans were a threat. Then Bob said something the crew described as chilling. "That day, it did not run from us," he said. "It walked away because it did not see fear in us. It saw curiosity, and maybe that was what it wanted to learn." Bob Gimlin moved into the next part of the interview with slow caution. He explained that after the Bluff Creek footage was shown to the public, he expected excitement, disbelief, and controversy. What he did not expect came just over 2 weeks later. A small group of men visited him, not as reporters or enthusiasts, but as quiet professionals. They claimed to be checking on the authenticity of the event. No identification was clearly shown, and no official agency name was spoken. They asked questions, not about what the creature looked like, but about what it was doing before and after the film started. Bob remembered the meeting as tense. They never raised their voices, but the tone carried weight. They focused on what he might have seen that Roger did not record. When he mentioned the presence of something in the tree line, the conversation abruptly shifted. Bob said one man leaned forward and asked if he believed the second figure was carrying anything. Bob hesitated. He had not shared that detail with anyone except Roger in a short exchange immediately after the encounter. He believed he saw something held in one of the arms of the creature deeper in the trees. It was long, not natural, and shaped like an object with purpose. Possibly a branch, possibly something else. He could not be certain. But when he acknowledged that belief, the man in front of him responded with a single clear sentence. "You did not see that." Bob understood it was not a question. It was instruction. He said the room went silent. The man then added in a calm tone, "Do not mention that again. People are not ready to hear what tools imply." Bob believed the warning was not about safety, but about the consequences of public reaction. At that time, even acknowledging the creature existed was controversial, suggesting that it might have been holding an object, implying intelligence or purpose, risked shifting the debate from biology to something far more unsettling. It raised the question of whether these beings were not just animals, but something closer to early humans. Bob did not tell anyone else what he was instructed to avoid. He continued to speak only about the footage itself, never elaborating on the second figure or the object. Over time, he learned how to give safe answers. He never called it a tool. He never described the moment clearly, until this final interview. He ended the section with a quiet line. "If it can carry something," he said, "then it can plan something." In the later part of the interview, Bob Gimlin spoke slowly, choosing his words with care. He said that over the years, many people assumed he was frightened during the encounter at Bluff Creek, but fear, he explained, was never his strongest emotion. He felt surprise, uncertainty, and caution, but not terror. The reason, he said, was because the creature did not behave like an animal attacking or defending territory. Instead, it acted like something watching, as if it wanted to understand them. Bob believed that the encounter was intentional. He explained that after listening to the audio 5 days earlier and then witnessing the filmed moment, the behavior of the creature did not match that of something simply reacting. He said, "It walked past us, not toward us. That is a decision, not instinct." He went on to explain that an animal startled in open terrain often chooses either immediate escape or threat display. Yet the creature did neither. It looked back. It maintained pace. It showed control. Bob shared a memory from that moment. While Roger focused on filming, Bob remained still on horseback. He did not dismount. He did not chase. He allowed the creature to move freely. He believed that was why there was no confrontation. "I wanted it to see calm," he said. "If it saw panic, I believe we would have had a different outcome." He described the expression on its face when it turned toward them. Not hostile, not fearful, simply measured. As if studying their response, Bob compared it to the way a person observes an unfamiliar animal. Not out of fear, but out of curiosity, mixed with assessment. He said what gave him the deepest impression was the eye contact. Even through distance, and through the blurred quality of the film, the eyes seemed aware. When asked directly if he believed the creature understood the presence of the camera, Bob paused. "I cannot prove it," he answered, "but I believe it recognized what we were doing. It did not try to hide from it." He then added a line that surprised even the filmmakers. "Most people spend their time trying to capture it," he said, "but I believe it wanted to see what we would do if we did." In his later years, Bob suggested the encounter might have been a test, not of them tracking the creature, but of the creature tracking their intent. He said he stayed silent because he believed the world would respond with fear and force. Only now, he said, did he hope people would respond with understanding. He finished the section with calm certainty. "It did not act like prey," he said. "It acted like witness." As the interview drew to a close, Bob Gimlin was asked one final question. After nearly 6 decades of silence, fear, and pressure, what did he now believe happened that day at Bluff Creek? He did not speak right away. He looked to the side, as if searching for the right place to begin. Then he answered with a level voice. "I believe it let us see it," he said. "Not because it made a mistake, because it made a choice." He explained that after years of reflecting, he no longer saw the encounter as a chance sighting or an accidental recording. He believed the creature knew they were present long before it appeared, that it had already observed them, studied their actions, and determined they were not a threat. Then it stepped into the clearing, not to confront, but to be witnessed, not out of panic, out of control. Bob admitted that this belief troubled him for many years. He worried that if the world understood the creature was capable of deliberate action, it would no longer be seen as an animal. It would be viewed as something closer to human intelligence, maybe even something that remembers. And that realization, he said, could change more than just cryptozoology. It could change how people react when fear meets the unknown. People fear what thinks, he said, not what reacts. He was then asked if he thought the creature had returned to watch them again after the footage was captured. Bob did not hesitate. Yes, he said, but it was not interested in us chasing it. It was interested in seeing if we would. His final words were spoken slowly, with clarity. I stayed silent because I did not want the world to hunt it. I speak now because I do not want the world to misunderstand it. The camera remained rolling for several seconds after he finished. No one spoke. Then Bob, at 93 years old, gently adjusted his hat and looked at the interviewer. Whatever it was, he said, it knew what we were doing, and if people ever see it again, I hope they remember that. He nodded once. The interview ended. Bob Gimlin passed away shortly afterward, according to those involved, without giving any further statements. The footage of his final interview reportedly remains in private review, awaiting clearance for public release. And now, the question rests with us. Was that day in 1967 evidence of something hiding from humans? Or proof that something was allowing humans to finally see it? If you believe this story deserves deeper discussion, comment your thoughts below. And if you want to hear what may be revealed next when that final interview is released, make sure to like the video and subscribe.